Hello, I'm Dave Johnson, along with the Wizards General Manager, Tommy Sheppard, and welcome to our question and answer with Tommy Sheppard. And, we appreciate, I'm looking over here, Tommy, we've been given so many questions from fans, and they keep submitting questions, and we're going to get to as many as possible. Apologize if we can't get to all of them, but we talk about this so many times. We use that hashtag DC family, but it's more than a hashtag. The Washington Wizards, it's truly a community, and when you think about it, the games and the broadcast really are touch points. We look forward to the day when we have games and broadcasts, but for now, that's why it's so important to have this touch point so we can reach out to all our members of the Washington Wizards family and connect with you and answer some questions as well. And Tommy, I'll just start with a question that we're all getting. We all want to know how we're doing as we go through this, because there's not a playbook for it, so we have to kind of make it up as we go along.
Absolutely. From the Wizards family to all of our fans, we miss you. And we can't wait to get back out and perform and have a team out there that you can be proud of and support. In this time that we're not able to do that, we're trying to use it as wisely as possible. First and foremost, stay safe, wash your hands, social distancing, all the obvious things that we can't say enough. But in terms of the players and our staff, we are staying connected. We stay connected every day in some way, shape, or fashion. We found a lot of great group activities we can do and that become team building. I wish, Dave, you told me years ago to buy stock in Zoom. I didn't listen. Right now, you'd be talking to Bill Gates Jr. Zoom is everybody's modem right now, or any video conferencing. The ability to get several people on the phone or on the computer and see each other's faces has been invaluable. So we have group workouts, we have team ball handling, we have group yoga. We've included the Mystics in a lot of the things that we do. We're keeping contact with the Go-Go's. So our basketball community is fine. We're healthy. We're safe. We just miss our fans, and we hope our fans are certainly healthy.
Well, truly do, and that's why, again, this afternoon with you is so special. Every time I get a tweet at Dave J Sports, it's from a fan. You take it for granted that you'll see fans at games, and again, as I said, we look forward to that as we all are doing the proper thing and staying at home. We'll start with a question from Claire Yoder, who says, "What's it like having 7 children? You have all 7 of your kids with you right now, right? So that's quality family time."
Yeah, I tell you what, we practice social distancing every hour on the hour. We try to get away from each other for a little bit, but it's been wonderful. It's a blessing, and we put them all. One thing I had to make sure, Dave, is that they don't unionize on me. I see them sneaking off when we start doing chores for the day and trying to keep tabs on them all. But it's actually been a blessing in a way. To this time together was never planned and never was expected. But often these kids have grown up without me in March and April. That's college basketball tournaments, that's March Madness, that's European trips this is all part of our scouting tour, and it's a perpetual calendar. So they get kind of used to me not being around in March and April. As a matter of fact, today is my daughter Abigail's 18th birthday. And it's just a blessing. I've missed the last 5 of these on the date. We always celebrate birthdays and such when we're together. We don't focus on a date per se, but she was quick to tell me, this is the first one you've been here for a while, so better get a good present, right? But she's been fantastic. My kids are very understanding of my job, and they're very supportive. But I realize that they get the short end of the stick often. This job, as your family, Dave, we're way too much. So if we can get anything good out of this time, let's utilize it to be with our families and really involve ourselves as best we can.
And again, that's why it's great to connect with our DC family, with, if you will. Let's get to some of the questions, and good to see this from our good friend Clyde Owen, who's been a season ticket holder for a lot of years. And maybe it's early, but he just wanted some of your initial thoughts on how the current situation might impact fan-player interactions, team travel, things of that nature. Have you given much thought to that in this early stage?
Well, certainly, we're all trying to prepare for the preparation, if you will, and nobody really can imagine what that's going to look like. Look, nobody's more important to NBA teams than our fans. And I'm sure with Adam Silver leading the charge, we have one of the best owners in all of professional sports, and Ted Leonsis. They put the fans first. We'll figure this path out as we go, but certainly our return to play is with the fans in mind. Our return to play is to lift this country up and hopefully help heal, be part of the healing process whenever that is. We were the first to close the doors, first professional sports league, one of the first big industries to actually close the doors And I know we want to lead the charge being first coming back, but we want to do it when the world's safe and when it's safe for our fans to come back. That's the most critical piece of this. So there's ways to stay connected until we're all back together again. This is one of the reasons you and I are on here today, and our players in our league is really trying to do as much as we can with fans. But I don't know what we're going to know when the new normal is. So in the continuum time that we have, maybe sometimes it's always not about the exact content, but maybe just the connection we can make every day.
Yeah, Carolyn had a similar request as well. And Lawrence and Andrew had asked about, and you touched on this, but as on our podcast, Full Court Press, we visit with Mo Wagner and Ish Smith, we kind of touched on these Zoom yogas and fitness gatherings, but this is, from what I understand, serious stuff, but the players are really enjoying the fact that they might not be in the same room, but they feel like they are.
Well, we're all creatures of habit. We spend so much time together, starting in really July, August, September, all the way through a season, hopefully through a playoff run. We're with each other every single day, and it is part of your extended family. Our basketball family is very close, and they certainly, they miss the camaraderie. I think the one message that we can continue to use to our players is it's so much easier to stay ready than to get ready. So this is a little bit unusual for basketball players to go more than a day without touching a basketball is unusual. To go more than a week, they're usually injured or sick. To go more than 2 weeks, it's almost an impossible situation to ask them, when's the last time you've been away from a court this long? It's never happened. So we're dealing with that, and let's transplant that the misery that you miss playing and being in the gym. How can we kind of address that as a group? And it's almost like group therapy. We're getting guys together. They're working hard. They're having fun at the same time. It's important. I said, this really isn't recreation. This is for the good of your body. Whenever we're ready to come back and play, you'll be ready to go out on the floor and start to ramp up. But if you're not, and we go to ramp up, you're going to first have to get in shape and then get ready to be in basketball shape. You'll never do it. It's going to take too long. So, there's so many, the unknown unknowns. That's just the way it is. We're not going to know what's ahead of us anytime sooner than it's revealed to us, obviously. But we can know this: you better be in shape, and you better have connections with everybody. It's so much easier to stay connected than when the doors come open and we all try to reacquaint ourselves. That doesn't work. And we have a great spirit. We have a great high-character team that cares a great deal about themselves, about their fans, about the team itself, the franchise. And I think this is all going to be, hopefully it'll be a powerful team bonding experience to go through. So when we come out on the other side, we'll all be better for it.
Yeah, I think it should be said that players are staying connected. I think it was Ish Smith told us they got on a Zoom conference call to wish happy birthday to Admiral Schofield recently.
Yeah.
So they can still have some fun with that. As you might expect, Tommy, we have a lot of questions about John Wall, and Jeremy was wondering what comes up every now and then about if and when the season starts later, does that help John Wall coming back? I think, and I'll get you to address that. And Sabar and Jameson just want to know again, how is it progressing, and how also can he impact this team in the future in the goal to become a better defensive team?
Sure. I think the first and foremost, the idea of John playing this year, while, hey, I would love for that to happen, it's just not feasible. We were scrimmaging before. On March 12th, John scrimmaged for the 6th time with the Go-Go. He had gone through a lot of practices with the Wizards, shaking the rust off and trying to get his legs back and get into shape. If you, to the untrained eye, you walked in, you'd say, wow, he looks fantastic. And he does. But NBA, the elite player especially that John is, to be in NBA top shape, he was definitely not that, and definitely wasn't close to that. He was on the way to that. And the biggest casualty for him in this deal right here is the inability to scrimmage, the inability to be in a gym with several people at the speed that he needs to be at. So he's actually he'll be in great shape coming out of this because he's working hard every day. But from a basketball training perspective, he's just not able to get out on the floor and do those things. So when we do return to play, he'll be behind, unfortunately. But I'll tell you this, we saw enough with John through this path in all the practices, all the scrimmages that he's been through, that next season is really, really, I can't wait for it to get here for him. We certainly are looking forward to the rest of this season. That's where our focus is. But in the back of my mind, I feel pretty good that we're going to get a 5-time All-Star back at a really, really high level.
And again, a guy who can impact the defense, because that's where defense starts, out on the perimeter there.
Absolutely. But
Christian,
John is so excited to get back in front of our Wizards fans.
yeah, no, there's no question about that. Christian Gardner brings up a good point, and again, it's come to as I've been talking to players, and we've gone on this journey so far in this season, asking about how you've seen the culture of this team develop. This is Christian's words. He says the team seems to be having the most fun they've had in recent years, and I think it's, if you attend games at Capital One Arena or listen on the radio or watch on television, you sense the fun this team is having.
Well, it is. It's a great young group of guys. It was spliced in with some fantastic veterans that give everybody just a sense of family and the ability to get better every day. We have great player development people that are really pushing these young guys. We have great vets that kind of bring them along, and we're very excited. The direction this team is going is at a very positive trajectory, and I think we can't wait to see kind of the whole collection of these players all together. We've had great moments, but we haven't been able to see this whole team together healthy for really long stretches. And, you know, whenever that day comes, I can't wait for that, for our fans, certainly for our players to play together. But, you know, I think we saw some excitement from a lot of the newcomers. We saw Bradley Beal take it to an all-NBA level, which is, there's no question, he's shown he's one of the very elite players in the NBA. And we'll see where it goes. But, Dave, I can't tell you enough the excitement we have of all these new people coming in, spliced together with our vets. It's a good look for us moving forward.
And this is a good question from Fawaz. I hope I said that name correctly. But and it's important as you try to build team culture, and you're the general manager of the Washington Wizards. How do you build relationships with players? And look, you've been in this game a long time. You deal with players of all personalities, walks of life. How do you build those relationships?
Well, I think the most important thing to any relationship, right, is TIME. The time you spend together away from the basketball court, the integration of our families and knowing what's important to those players and what their hopes and aspirations are for themselves, for their family, who's the most important people in their lives, the names of all their children, their parents. We try to really acclimate ourselves and be a full 360, meet our players at the door the moment they walk in as a Wizard and escort them all the way through the rest of their playing career and certainly through their life. And we've noticed that we've made some dramatic improvements across all of our platforms. The addition of Sashi Brown, Danny Medina, John Thompson III, with the ability to have everybody housed together at our practice facility. That certainly created this basketball community. But I think exposure to people in times where you're really trying to build something, especially I found, Dave, you get the closest relationships come in adversity. So this time period right here, I'm noticing some people opening up even a little bit more than they would if we were at work away from each other. And that's been experienced that time and time again, that the more time you spend together, the deeper the relationship.
So many questions about the upcoming draft. And I'll start with what Ben Dixon points out. And this is, I think, as we deal with the situation right now, he asked, what have you done to supplement your analysis of the draft? Because obviously you typically would not be home at this time, or certainly in March, you wouldn't have been home. You would have been out scouting. So how, during this time, have you been able to supplement and prepare for the draft?
Well, you know, this is actually kind of a normal time for us as a scouting group. We're always on conference calls, and now we're on video calls where we're actually taking much more time on each player as we look into try to find who the best fits for the Wizards are. We're digesting so much more video collectively as a group and going over players in far more detail. This may end up being the way we do the draft moving forward, is to really spread out some of these times that we talk about players. And I think this is going to be a draft that for us, we have an opportunity to add more talent. I think when you look at our roster and you see eight players 23 and younger, you know, we can probably take a swing at somebody and hope that they're not going to have to help us immediately next year. If that player is there, certainly we do that, but it gives us so many more options. And this will be an exciting draft. We have a second-round pick that's a 37 right now. If the season ended, it could be whatever the draft order is. We feel we'll find players there.
And then Matisse was asking, obviously it doesn't seem like you're going to have in-person workouts, they would be happening. How will that impact, if at all, the draft?
Workouts are important, but these players have played all season. They've played often for 2 or 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons. If we're going to decide how to take a player based off of one workout, we're in a lot of trouble. We've done our homework. We have a tremendous scouting staff that scoured the United States and the globe trying to find the very best talent. And we have a database just stuffed full of reports. We've done the preparation work. So this opportunity, if we don't have to actually spend time physically with players and watch them work out and do interviews, we just pivot. We're going to start next week doing video conference interviews with the top seniors that are in college now and some international players. And we are allowed to do that. We wait for the underclassmen list to come out. When that does come out, we'll be able to do even more interviews. And it's been great. We look forward to that. It starts Monday for us with some seniors, and it makes it feel very normal. That's what we'd be doing normally this time of year. But I'm not discounting the workout at all. It's a valuable piece, but it's out of all the things that we value, that's probably lower on the checklist because we've seen these players for so long.
Kevin Bishop wanted to know, and maybe you already addressed this, but if you hadn't, as you look at this particular draft or any draft, and given the structure of the team, how do you evaluate potential over talent?
I think it's twofold. The first thing you want to find is somebody certainly with potential, but they have the high character and the competitive drive. Because there's a lot of players that fit the bill, but that's where, the grit that we want and the grit that we test for and the grit that we really do the deep dives to find out who these players are, that's the big separator. And I think if you want to know really what we value the highest, obviously it's character, but it's determination and passion, the competitive gene that we really look at. We don't want to find guys that we have to fire them up every single day. We want to find guys that we have to beg them to come off the floor, to stop working, to get out and take a day off. Those are the kind of players that I think tend to end up in the playoffs and tend to be in the All-NBA teams and the All-Star games. And we have those in Bradley. We have those in John. Several players on our roster that way, and that's just the culture that we really want to have here at all times.
Similar questions from Carter and Adam, just about, obviously you've been in your position for 1 year. What are some of if there's a 5-year plan, or I don't want to characterize it as that, but just some of the longer term goals of this franchise as we're getting through the first year of this journey?
Well, I think you always want to have more talent, and we develop talent so many different ways. We draft and we play players like Rui this year was able to come in right away and start for us. Admiral wasn't. So we gave Admiral an opportunity to play over 1,300 minutes with the go-go. He played the 5th most minutes of any rookie that was drafted last year. We're really proud of that. We think that if he hadn't had those minutes with the go-go, he'd probably be less than 200 minutes with the Wizards, right? It's hard for rookies to find the floor. So we have opportunities to develop players both on our roster using the go-go. I think the long term is obviously, look, the salary cap is what it is. And so we're going to have a lot of money locked in to the best players. And then there's the role players, the rest of the roster. We got to figure out how we can develop players to the best of their ability, and certainly be in budget. So a lot of that comes from rookie contracts and helping those guys level up quickly and be able to contribute right away. A lot of it comes from creating players from the G League and lifting them up. We did that with Jordan McRae. He started out as a 2-way player last year, became a rotation player this year. Unfortunately, Jordan's no longer with us. We had to make a move, but he brought to us Shabazz Napier, a backup point guard, which was an area we really needed. So there's value everywhere you go when you're developing players, and the rest of the league's paying attention. If you have valuable players, the rest of the league wants some of those players too. But my biggest hope in the next 5 years, certainly we keep adding to our talent level, but keep developing at a high level. And I think as soon as we get the opportunities for those big moments, we'll know what they are. If there's ways to change your roster dramatically, you prepare for that at all times. Well, I'm always preparing to make the Wizards better. And we're talking to every single team in the league. We're constantly kind of comparing our players against the rest of the league, and we know what we need. And overall, I think we have enough talent right now to be much better next season.
And Jay Smith was asking, what uh, characteristic metric do you value the most? I think you touched on it. Is it the competitive gene when you're looking for what's, you know what the basketball is? Is it that competitive gene you mentioned?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one word for it, but the kind of the compilation of competitive gene, basketball IQ, work ethic, demonstrated work ethic, demonstrated love of the game, and then your high character. You know, we really use a lot of data to show us here's a pile of very interesting players that have proven data that backs it up. Because sometimes you fool yourself. You'll watch a player and, you know, they're awful good, but their team's awful. So which one is it? You're always going to find good players on a bad team. Someone's going to put up big numbers on a bad team. We value winning at a high clip. And we've added players that have won national championships, that have been in NBA finals, you know, those kinds of things. That's what resonates with us, is winning. And certainly that work ethic.
You know, as you look to get better, and this is something we've talked about, but Miles Wilcox was adding about, you know, you think of glamour markets like New York and Los Angeles, but when you make pitches to free agents, Washington, D.C. is a market that is attractive, or how would you describe it, or how does that come up in conversations?
Washington, D.C. is a destination city. It's a great free agent city. You know, I'll always go at anybody that says we don't get free agents here. Look at the ones we've retained over the years. We've retained our biggest free agents. They wanted to stay here and re-sign. We've attracted plenty of free agents over time. But what we have in this city, right, we have by far one of the greatest cities in the United States and in the world. That's something that's very, very hard for the rest of the league to compare to. We have one of the best ownership groups in all of professional sports. Those are the two main factors that really drive your success, is if you have a great city, great facilities, and great ownership, everything else can kind of come together quickly. And I think that's my goal for the Wizards. Our goal together is to certainly elevate this team quickly, to get back to the playoffs, to get deeper in the playoffs. That's certainly our goal. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm telling you what, we're not going to wait for it. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to push very hard this summer to keep improving, and I think we're going to have a really great outlook over the next 5 years.
You touched on Shabazz Napier, and Thormal, I believe his name is Thormal, or Coachman, had a question about he was very impressed as a fan, and what are your hopes for keeping Shabazz Napier in D.C.?
I hope Shabazz and obviously with Davis, there's free agency is difficult to talk about right now because we're still in the season. But I think those players, when we acquired them not as rentals. We acquired them to stay here. God bless you. Nice job not touching your nose, Dave. That was very, very good. But I think the players that we acquired are here to show that they can be here for the future. And we're giving them that opportunity in the platform. And, just two names that I just mentioned with Davis, with Shabazz, they showed, as being free agents, they showed enough to us that certainly we would love to retain them. We plan to.
Yeah, and we should point out, we were talking about future things, and there's still a present, because this season is just suspended right now, and the hope is at some point it resumes. A lot of questions, and you touched on them earlier, but I'll get you maybe to expand on a little bit. A lot of folks asking about Rui Hachimura, and obviously his rookie season, I think, surpassed certainly every fan's expectation. But from the general manager's seat, what did you see?
Well, I had pretty high expectations of Rui because I'm real familiar with the player and the character of the kid and the competitiveness of the kid. And he did. He exceeded him as a rookie to come in and get the starting job from day one, and then to produce the way he was producing. He was a great fit, seamless fit. Our players loved playing with him. The injury was a setback. I think the most impressive thing about him coming back from injury is how quickly he was able to get back to the level that he was at. We're really excited about his future. One thing, it's not just Rui, all of our bigs, we want them to be versatile, to be able to guard multiple positions and to be able to be sufficient on the floor at different positions at different times of the game. And I think that's what we're really hopeful with Rui, to increase his ball handling, to give him some opportunities to play the wing, play the four. You know the game, Dave. We actually had to play the five a few times during the season. It's just the more versatile we are, the more tools in the toolbox to go out and be able to match up with anybody out on the floor. We're really trying to observe how the game is being played and certainly what the future of the game is. And I think one key for Rui, obviously, is to improve his handle, but most importantly, improve his perimeter game, be able to knock down the three reliably. I think after All-Star, he was shooting at a much better clip than he was to start the season. That just comes with confidence, getting repetitions. So, you know, we envision putting a team out on the floor that has shooters like Beal out there. You got Bertans out there. Now you throw Rui if he's capable of hitting the three. Big Thomas Bryant can hit a three and roll to the rim. And then, you know, think about John Wall distributing to those guys. And then you have to think about the other team trying to guard those guys. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on the defense when you have shooters out on the floor. And Rui's going to have to adapt his game, make sure he's a very proficient shooter from three.
You know, and I think you just made a great point. And I first did this league in 1990, filling in, and you go back as long. We're talking in 2020. Versatility is the key. This is a different game than 20 years ago. And if you can't play multiple positions, that's now a handicap. Or is that a fair statement?
I think it's just everybody's adapted, adjusted to the pace of the game, and really the onset of how important the three ball became. The 3-point shot changed so much even in the last 2 years, and having John sit out, you know, most of the last 2 seasons, he'll be the first to tell you he's observed the game. It's different than the one that he left when he was last at his height. Shooting the ball is at a premium at all times, and the ability to stress the defense is so important. And you're seeing threes that are being pulled from everywhere now. There's not somebody that's you know, we used to call them toe jammers, but their toe would step on the 3-point line. You don't see that anymore. You see people shooting that you think it's either a 4 or 5-point shot. You know, Davis, if you're watching with the sound down, you think it's halftime or you think it's the end of the quarter. Sometimes he's shooting shots from half court, but that's the way the game's going. We feel strongly that teams will be shooting 53s attempted. Each team will shoot in a game in the near future. It'll be so normal and commonplace, and every position will have to do it. So we're trying to get more creators out on the floor. Troy Brown is another player that really developed well for us this year. It showed the versatility to play the point, the two, the wing, and his ability to shoot the three is going to be huge for his success with us moving forward. All of our players, we're going to ask them to be able to knock down shots.
And not only that, but Joey had that question. Joey Remora, thanks for the question about Troy Brown Jr. We're now in a league where you want multiple playmakers out on the court.
Absolutely, and I don't think it's anything new, but you want good ones. You want to be able to get guys that can all play together, that can share the ball, and that's one of our big philosophies is the ability to share the ball. And I don't know if you could find a better leader than Bradley Beal. And some of the games you watched just even recently, his ability to just be willing to give up a game-winning opportunity to make the right pass, to make the right play. Bradley does that on autopilot. He knows what the right basketball play is, and he executes every time. And we won some great games this year because of him giving up the ball.
Yeah, along that lines with Bradley Beal, as Elizabeth Van Horn was asking about the development of the younger players, can you talk just about how important Bradley Beal's leadership is?
It's crucial. It's been crucial. It's been fun to watch. You know, when Bradley came into the league, we drafted him. He had just turned 19 the day of the draft. And now you fast forward, he's a father too. He's got a beautiful family, wonderful parents, a great life. And he's still, to me, the same person that I met when he was young. He's a very mature beyond his years, young man that cares deeply. And he is a very aware, his work ethic, everything that he does, he's got eyes watching him. And he doesn't take that lightly. He takes his leadership very seriously. He leads it vocally, but he really leads by example all the time. And not that it was a surprise to us this year, but the level that his game went up this year is just a product of all the hours that he spent in the previous years. And I think as the older you get for the game in the NBA, I think you figure it out. It slows down for you a little bit, and it sounds a little counterintuitive, but sometimes when you slow down, the game is easier. And this year especially, you look at Bradley's usage and how many times we ask him to pass the ball and create the ball, and he's still able to put up 30 points a night is pretty unbelievable. And it just speaks well to his future and his status amongst the elite players in the NBA. I'm so grateful to Bradley. You know, Dave, I think of all season of all the highlights and stuff, but his vision and his ability to express to us that, you know, certainly by signing that extension, his belief in us and where we're going, that means the world to us.
And his players have told me, you know, he's very straight up with them. He wants them to be accountable. And yet he doesn't separate himself from the pack. He's very much with everyone on everything, and that's so important in leadership. I'll kind of turn Leo's question about when we can resume. What are you most excited about seeing going forward? And I think that's, the pause. We still wanted more because we could see it coming. I think over the last 30 games, this team was better defensively and basically had a 500 record.
Yeah, I think literally the thing I'm looking forward to is that first day, first time we're all together in the facility, and the celebration of getting back to what we're great at doing, what we're blessed to do in the NBA. But what I really look forward to seeing, we get back up and running again, and we start playing games, is to continue to get better at both ends of the floor. And I think the growth in our young guys is very critical as we finish out the season and still try to compete for the playoff spot. But most importantly is to watch those young guys and really compete for their minutes for the future.
Yeah, and Bobby has a question about your experiences, and we should point this out, with the U.S. Olympic movement, the Denver Nuggets. How did that all play into the Tommy Sheppard that is today in charge of the Wizards?
I think I was exposed at a very young age in my career to international basketball, the globalization of the game. We could say the NFL is America's game. That's great, but basketball is the world's game. And I witnessed that firsthand. And my first Olympics was in '96 in Atlanta. Then I worked in Sydney, and I worked also in Athens. Those 3 Olympic Games plus 8 other USA basketball journeys that I went on with teams around the globe. You realize that the game is just, it's played around the world. And a quarter of the NBA are international players. So that experience with the Olympics, more importantly, my experience with USA basketball, not just the Olympics, but European championships, world championships, other things that I've been involved with, just showed me that, the game doesn't care where you're from. It just cares that you can come in and produce and contribute and make an impact on a team. And you've heard me say it way too many times, so I apologize making your ears bleed, but I've never checked the passport, and I don't check the birth certificate. If you can play, you're going to be with us.
And as we have 2 players from Latvia. I think we made history this past season, right?
I tell you what, you wonder what the other 2 million people in the country are up to, but we know where 2 of them are at all times. It's an amazing journey for both those players. And I'm as proud of Andres Pasicniks as any player we've had through here, because he started out as an Exhibit 10 on the G League team. Yeah. He played in EuroLeague last year. He was a first-round pick of Philadelphia 3 years ago. And for whatever reason, he was available. Whatever reason, we brought him here. We developed him. And now we have him under a great contract moving forward. It's a great opportunity for him. That's a success story. And he's still a very young player. So we feel like in terms of having bigs that are mobile, that can protect the rim, can make shots, compete. You saw the games that he was playing in for us, that he competed at a very high level. He's got a lot of room for growth, but we saw enough potential in him to extend him to a full NBA contract. So there's great players all over the globe with great stories. You just have to do a great job of finding those guys. And AP's is every bit as part of our future. It's really neat. And obviously Bertans, he makes Latvia proud every time he steps on the floor.
No, and I think we should also stress here, and fans have made it out to the entertainment and sports arena in Congress Heights, where the Washington Wizards practice facility, and with the Capital City Go-Go, and it's an entire program you're developing. And that's why you see stories like Pasicniks or Garrison Matthews suddenly steps in and scores 28 in a game. Again, it's not just about maybe the team you're seeing on the floor at Capital One Arena. It's what's going on in a couple of arenas around town.
Yeah, it's certainly, but it's going to continue. I promise. We're going to continue to utilize everything at our resources. Through the draft, you build a team. Through free agency, you build a team. Through trading, you build a team. Through claiming people off waivers, you build a team. And we have a little bit of all that on our roster now. We're going to continue to really push to get this team to a very, very high level as quick as possible.
Well, Tommy Sheppard, with the power out in your house right now, right?
How about that? All of Davidsonville right now. So this isn't my usual workspace, but any port in a storm, as they say. Well,
it's important to connect with all our fans. So for Wizards General Manager Tommy Sheppard, I'm Dave Johnson. Please reach out on Twitter if you like, at Dave J Sports. We've got the Washington Wizards podcast network going on As I said when we began this conversation, question and answer with Tommy Sheppard, it's important for us to stay connected with all of you because we think of games and broadcasts as our touch points. We look forward to having those touch points again. For now, we sincerely enjoyed this afternoon together.
Yes. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to send their questions. And my one question for you, Dave, do you do play-by-play, like of the kids doing chores?
Yes.
Or, people getting dressed, like how do you go about using your pipes every day?
Well, and that's why people should send me videos because I need to keep, you were just explaining the players are staying in fitness regimens, right?
Absolutely.
So I need to stay sharp.
Yep.
So you've got your 7 kids in the house. I should do play-by-play of how you organize chores.
Hey, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to organize a work party and see if you can call them out. I really appreciate that. But thank you for this time, and thank you to our fans.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support of the Washington Wizards.